is interesting and important is to think about the public, the general public, and what kind of views do they have about this issue of return and readmission, and to see how those perspectives from the public are actually taken into account by policymakers. So, and one aspect of this is that sometimes the views of the public tend to be seen as very simple views. So they're either in favor of detention, they're in favor of return, or they are just in favor of allowing the migrants to stay, and alternatives. And in reality, there are more nuanced views than this. The public has very nuanced views and complex views on how they think that the policymakers should deal with this type of issue.
Okay, so I think that the main consequences on the life of migrants at risk to be returned, and so the implementation of the return and readmission policies would for sure impact the life of the migrants in the sense of access to rights, access to protection, but also in some sense they will kind of bear all day lifelong probably, or until anything will change, this kind of oppression given by the risk that they are actually living of being returned.
This project is one of 7 research consortia on irregular migration PICUM is involved in, and we're very interested to see how this issue will unpack a number of the concepts on framing of return, deportation, what are alternative policies to the enforcement agenda, which is quite predominant concerning migration policies at the EU level. And so we hope that this project will be an opportunity not only to unpack these issues, but also to have conversations and analysis with a wide range of stakeholders, including those who might be in these processes themselves.
So the MORE project focuses on analyzing, exploring the directive of return, or the policy as well of return, from a very critical approach. And one of the ways to go about it and to explore it, which I think is particularly relevant, is that it does so by looking at the consequences on the everyday experiences. And that means the consequences on the ground of those implementing those policies and the mechanisms within the directive, but also, and more importantly, if you allow me, the consequences for those that are subject to the measures of these policies, namely illegalized migrants across Europe. And by doing so, we hope to reveal that the consequences of this policy, the consequences of this directive, go sometimes well beyond what we take on board when we analyze policies from a very much top-down approach.
So the MORE project will contribute to unpack the concept of effectiveness, how EU policymakers assess the success of return and expulsion policies, actually bringing about alternatives to expulsion of undocumented migrants, exploring different statuses, regularization, which are equally effective in upholding fundamental rights. So bringing about also a better understanding why is it that EU expulsion policies are in fact, can be or should be ineffective when considering the rights of people.